Hello and welcome to CVG's Batman Arkham Origins Preview Show from E3. I'm Tim Clark, I'm joined by Dan Dawkins and Tim Weaver. We're about to hear from, though, Joel Gregory, who's the Deputy Editor of Official PlayStation Magazine, and he's going to tell us what's new with The Dark Knight.
Hi there, welcome back to E3 2013, where I'm joined by Official PlayStation Magazine's Deputy Editor, Joel Gregory, who today has been to see Batman Arkham Origins. Joel, tell us about it. It's not Rocksteady this time. Bit of a change. How does it feel?
It feels remarkably similar to the last games. I don't think they're doing a huge amount, which is massively innovative, but I guess they don't really need to. The Arkham games have been really strong so far. The core gameplay, the core combat doesn't really need messing with. I started off playing a section, I have no idea how far through the game it was. I could have been playing Arkham City, basically. However, after a little while, I got introduced to a couple of the new mechanics. So one of them is the crime scene investigation. It's similar to the detective mode last time, which Batman still has, but this time you have to basically piece together what's happened at a crime scene. So I saw a helicopter crash. You scan for evidence, and scanning for evidence then allows you to basically replay a virtual reconstruction of the incident. So I replayed the helicopter as it was crashing, followed its path upwards onto the top of a building, and then followed the route of a sniper bullet, which was, as it turns out, what took it down. So it actually feels quite nice. You have to do, I mean, it's not massively involving, but you have to do a little bit more work to figure out what's happened and kind of piece things together in sections. So that's nice. And I used a new gadget as well, which is Batman's special claw, which he can attach to two things now. So you can attach it to two goons and smash them together. You can attach a guy to a gargoyle and have him strung up. So there's new features within the existing Arkham framework is, I guess, the best way of looking at it.
Is there any risk, do you think, when the game gets into more people's hands? Is there any risk of it feeling at all stale, or do you think, the vision of the world and the new gadgets are enough to keep people interested, keep people coming back to Batman?
I don't think it'll feel stale because, like I say, that gameplay from the Arkham games is really solid, and I don't think people are tired of it. What I don't think it will have is the same rapturous reception as the last game, because I just don't think it's doing enough that's different to get that same kind of critical acclaim. I think what it'll come down to really is how big the city is and how much there is to do in it. They're promising a much bigger world. Obviously, I haven't been able to see that yet, so I can't confirm or deny that. I think if the world is big enough and if it's kind of well populated and interactive enough, we'll still have a really good Batman experience. I don't think it's going to be bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just wonder if it's going to hit those same heights.
Sure. Thanks very much, Joel. More on Batman Arkham Origins as and when we get it.
So yeah, much as expected there, I suppose. Really, a new Batman game, a solid Batman game, but I felt like Joel was struggling to sort of find something to latch onto to really be excited about. What's the premise of the game? Tell me a bit more about. It's an origin story, right?
It's an origin story. It's a prequel. Batman isn't quite as established. He hasn't got the same connections with the police. He's a bit more renegade. The setup is that classic Batman villain, the Black Mask, on Christmas Eve, of all the days, what a villain. He's hired 8 different supervillains, or he's lured them to Gotham City to take down Batman with the promise of 50 million quid. For that money, I might be tempted to try and take down Batman.
How do you think you'd get on?
I'd die. Well, I wouldn't die, because Batman doesn't kill people. What's the loss, then?
Is Batman a particular fan of Christmas? Would he have been hanging up his stocking, perhaps pouring out a sherry, like settling down?
I mean, there are, in the comics, there are quite a few, famous sort of stories that were set in around that time. So it's actually quite a good setting if you're a fan of the comic books. I mean, I understand what Joel's saying. I think that, to expect the same level, the jump from Arkham Asylum to Arkham City was huge. Let's not make no bones about it. I mean, it was huge. I never expected the jump from Arkham City to Arkham Origins to be the same because A, it's not Rocksteady, and B, I think Warner as the publisher probably from day one said to Warner Montreal, do what Rocksteady did.
Don't mess it up.
But
that's in some ways. I mean, I'm sure the guys at Montreal are creative and have their own ideas. That's a terrible straitjacket to work in some ways, because you imagine Rocksteady are off doing something for next gen. Batman is clearly the key franchise for Warner now. Warner's they struggled for a while to really find something to call their own in terms of not just being a big license, but also being something that was critically acclaimed and commercially successful. They've clearly got it now with Batman. And I feel like, in the same way, do you remember with Bioshock 2 when that came out? And Bioshock was all about, great new ideas, freshness, and to revisit the same location in Rapture just felt tired, even though again that was a perfectly solid take on those gameplay mechanics. And I feel a bit the same way about this new Batman, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed Eric Holmes, who's the sort of lead on Arkham Origins before, and he's a smart guy, a really smart guy, and he's got a good CV full of games that were set in open world. So he knows what he's doing, and I'm sure the team there know what they're doing as well. I agree, maybe it is a bit of a straitjacket to work with him, but at the same time, Joel hinted at quite a few subtle changes to the formula, which I think could actually make a big difference. Remember, detective mode in the other games was not all that great. I mean, it was literally just flicking on your vision and looking around and spotting a little blood trail.
Detective mode in all games is it's like in Lara Croft's game. It's like your shortcut for a lazy design sometimes, where you go, oh my god, we forgot to frame the camera to find out where the magic moon entrance is. Just put your thing mode on, you'll see it. See, it's glowing. Go on, it's fine.
I really like actually in it because there's another game out at the moment on current gen, Last of Us, which we talked about a bit recently on the channel. And that does a thing where you can crouch down and listen to hear, and you hear them as a visual outline, the enemies around you. Also does a fine trade in brutal combat. And I think it's interesting how people receive those sorts of devices, because they're either like you accept it as like a necessary kind of logical break with reality, or like with detective mode in the first one, where some people just play with it switched on the whole time so they could constantly see where the goons were.
I mean, detective mode is I think sits quite comfortably in Batman's world, because this is a superhero, even though he's just a bloke. We're talking about, so he is going to have all the gadgets. He's supposed to be the world's best detective.
Is that what you say when you had your 50 million quid boot? You go, you're just a bloke, Batman.
Yeah, that was always my old publisher Richard Keith's complaining about Batman. He's just a man.
Yeah, and that's what makes him great, though, because
that's why he's the greatest superhero there's ever been.
Exactly. So I'm excited about it. I mean, I thought Arkham City was one of the best games of the generation. I thought it was an astounding piece of work. So I'm excited about it. If it comes in and it's 8 out of 10 good, that's fine by me. I don't expect it to be as good as Arkham City. I don't expect it to be as kind of have those magical moments, because like you say with Bioshock 2, you can't go back and revisit something and have it be as magical the second time round. But if it's 8 out of 10 good, that's fine.
Dan, what would your dream be for a next-gen Batman? What do you secretly hope Rocksteady are feverishly working away on?
That's quite exciting. I don't know if I want it to get necessarily bigger. I felt like at times I felt like Arkham City lost focus for me, and I actually preferred Arkham Asylum. I know that's like an unpopular view.
No, I semi-agree actually. Yeah, I semi-agree.
I disagree, but I don't think it is unpopular. I think a lot of people feel that way.
And I just thought it was just that the claustrophobia of the setting and the freshness of it, and
there was a tautness with which they sort of parcelled out the changes in scenery and the changes in antagonists in the first one that necessarily got lost by being able to explore most of the city almost immediately.
Yeah, I think I'd like to be more like almost like a character piece. That was what Arkham Asylum felt like to me, particularly with that amazing little Bruce moment. And again, I was worried more about mechanics and scale in the second game, as good as they were, and they really were, and that's a great game. I'd like them to maybe go back to that nice, taut, tight setting, but just with graphics going to blow me away, make Batman look like a brooding badass. And even, I know you're sort of semi-obliged to set it in Arkham City. Maybe don't, though. Maybe take it somewhere else.
I mean, the rumour is they're doing
Hawaii.
The rumour is they're doing a Silver Age version of Batman, in which case, that does provide them with a lot more of. That's not going to be the Dark Knight necessarily. It could be the Batman in pants.
What about like an old Batman from like Dark Knight Returns, a wheezing 60-year-old, much like me?
Yeah.
That would be great. I mean, that would be great. Sort of grizzled, sort of Clint Eastwood-y kind of feel to it. I think would be really interesting. I agree. I agree with you guys. I think I can see why people didn't like City as much as Asylum, but for me, City, that level of freedom, just being able to swoop from rooftop to rooftop was amazing, and I think they got the setting. And that's why I'm excited about Arkham Origins. The setting, the winter, you could almost feel the cold in Arkham City, and I think setting it on Christmas Eve is actually quite smart on Origins' part.
Tim Weaver sold me on the Christmas Wonderland dream of beating up criminals. We'll have much more about Batman on the site and much more gameplay reaction videos to come on CVG and the CVG YouTube channel, so please do stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.